now let's start the talk. I hope that you are coming here to learn a little bit more. Okay, I'm hearing myself twice. A little bit more about the humans in our networks. So I will explain a little bit more. The agenda is as follows. So I'll explain you a little bit about who I am, where I work, what I do. Humans are question mark. I want you to think a little bit about if you're thinking about humans in your network, and in terms of, we always hear they are the weakest link, and I saw some of your questions in advance, and obviously it was one of the questions. So are they the weak link or the strong link? So that's a little bit for you to think about, and I'll talk to you a little bit about this in a minute. Then we go into social engineers' perspective into all this. So I'll explain you a little bit, but I do social engineering and physical security engagements. That means that I break into buildings or places where I shouldn't be. So I will talk a little bit about what's my perspective on this, how the humans are they the weak link or strong link, and what can we do about it? I'll offer you a little bit of insight. Then I'll walk you through a little bit of a kill chain. It will be a hybrid one, so there will be part of it that are remote, so because obviously, as you can see, I'm home too, and I'll show you a little case of me breaking into pyramids. So that will be fun. Um, what can we do about it? That will be next part, and then I'll take some questions from you. So let's. So I started as on the defensive side of security. I started in UK. I was first SOC engineer for a new security operations center, which was very insightful for me because I grew with the whole team, and it was very interesting to see the whole communication with the higher ups, as well as building the whole security operations center. Then I switched the tables to the offensive side, and that's where I'm right now. So went into auditing and social engineering, and in general. So I'm talking about the security spectrum. I like versatility. So in my what interests me is everything from medical devices, industrial control systems, to social engineering and cyber warfare. Because for me, it's really interesting to see we are living in interesting times where the shift between the nations been shifted to cyberspace. Um, so as I said, it also shows in my work. Like the last training I gave was on ICS hacking. I also do lots of talking because I enjoy speaking to people, whether it's or online or in real time, real life. Um, I am also a co-organizer of B-Sides Athens conference, as well as B-Sides Cairo. So I was in Lively Cairo back in February. And it was actually just when I came back from Egypt, I went straight into quarantine. So Egypt was actually the last place that I visited before all of this happened. So how my work look like if we are talking about the social engineering and the physical engagement. I chose as my social engineering, this is my fake ID that I'm using sometimes, and it's in the name of Grace O'Malley. And in real life, she was a pirate queen from 16th century Ireland. Um, and you could see me, although if you see me, it will be too late for you. Um, I work at DreamLab. DreamLab is Swiss. I would say that we are pioneers because we've been around for quite a while. I think what's really important, and as I was talking about the cyber warfare, I think it's important to be neutral and transparent. We are working with lots of open source. So, and we do everything from consulting to education, but we are also building our own tools that are useful for the whole nations to companies. We are doing tools that let your customers or your employees browse safely. And I think it's important to be the Switzerland in the space. I see there is a technical issue. Okay, I see myself back, so it should be fine in a minute. Um, So, we are known in Switzerland pretty well. I'm not sure if you heard of us, uh, uh, but we are also known around the world because we have offices from Latin America through Switzerland to Oman and Asia Pacific in Kuala Lumpur. So we are trying to always uh, okay. I'm just seeing your comments, guys. So thank you. Uh, yeah, we are trying to always wherever we are in the world, we are always trying to help and try to share the knowledge. So that's why we are getting involved everywhere. Um, so did you think about who humans are or how humans are? How are we? I'm a human too. So where are the humans in your network? If you're thinking about your work and your network and in your company, where do you think of them as the end users, or do you think of them as the guys that you have issues that will be the guys, the users that will end up clicking on the links in phishing emails? I think it's first step to realize that, and then you need to build on that. Obviously, you need to base this thought on your experience and on testing. So for me, where the humans are, you could say that they are the eighth layer of OSI model. I'm sure that you guys are familiar. It's a framework or model on how data flows through our networks. And we often say that we are the eighth layer, right? But I feel like that we are pretty much on every layer. Like even though we are saying that on the physical layers it's the cables, but we are the humans that are putting in the cables. We are the humans that are uh, configuring the routers, and we are the ones. So I think that we are present on every layer, and that's how I am thinking about humans in our network and why I think that they are really important. So I did a little bit of comparing and searching. So you could see on the left side we have the humans and weakest link, and on the right side the humans and the strongest link. And surprisingly, and for me it was positive surprise, if you look at it, there is 4.5 million results for the weakest link only, and 153 for millions for the strongest link, which is that's really good, right? That's sort of the point of my talk too. But if you look at it, the top results for the humans are the weakest link are all cybersecurity related. So is it perhaps an issue that we have in our industry where we are portraying the users as the weakest link? So that was food for thought. So from my perspective, um, this is obviously something that's more pertinent to the physical engagement that I'm doing. Um, my sort of holistic approach is about non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is about 75% of all the communication, and it's obviously for my, and I will be sort of jumping to the offensive and defensive side, but from my perspective, it's really important not only for my engagements, it's important for your work life and for your personal life, obviously, too. But here, Dr. Drucker, he was the founder of modern management, and he was saying that there is the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. So that's the nonverbal communication. which I call it the holistic approach. So it evolves around psychology. So there's the mind, the facial micro expression, the face, and the body language. So I will always, as I said, I will always walk to the offensive and defensive side. Um, so reality is objective, but our perception of reality is subjective. So that is my. I didn't want to use a medical mask, so we we will be using a much prettier mask. So that's my offensive mask. So if I put on my offensive thinking, um, what does it mean? If I am breaking into somewhere and I need, let's say, I am breaking into a server room, and so the reality for me, the reality is one, but if there is someone who's coming out of the server room and I'm coming in there, the reality, the perception of the reality is different. The reality is the same, but the person coming out of the server room sees the reality different than I do. And I use that for obviously for my engagement, but how can we use it when we are thinking about defensive thinking? How that is a helpful thing for you if you're trying to protect your networks. So you can use this when you're communicating with people. When you're trying to build awareness programs, you need to understand what's the perception of the reality that is perhaps different for you. Maybe you are understanding security and why it's important, but are you really portraying it, or are you communicating it in a way that the perception of this security reality is understandable for your users? Then again, you need to, that's why social engineering is important, because that is testing how people are perceiving it. Facial micro expressions. So I find it super interesting because and useful for me because they are universal. So whenever you go, for me, since I've been working a little bit around the world, wherever you go, the micro expressions are universal. What does it mean? It was proven, there was research then where a tribe that never saw another human being, their micro expressions were still the same as other humans. So that's something that you can go about if you're going to a different country or you're speaking to someone from a different part of the world. But micro expression is different to the macro expression because it's only 1/25th of a second. It happens very, very fast, but it's like a data leak of your face. It's the truth that you can see behind someone's facial expression. So let's look at how they look like. It's seven of them. So it's disgust. I'm showing you a little bit the signs so you can learn and you can. I'm hoping that you will never see someone disgusted. But you need to think about why you understand the emotion that's on the face, but we don't understand what's happening behind. I would see sometimes it could be discussed by themselves. It's something that they are perhaps ashamed of. So it's you need to take that into account. So it's disgust, anger, fear, sadness, happiness, surprise, and contempt. So this helps me to understand what's happening. So depends on the engagement. It could be, are we talking about red team engagements where I'm testing the defensive mechanisms in the company? So then I would perhaps use it to understand if the person maybe knows that I'm not supposed to be there, or if they are alarmed sometimes. Or is it an engagement where we agreed with the customer that it's supposed to be testing them in a certain way? There is supposed to be some sort of scenario. And so I am trying to understand if they at all understand that they should be doing something. So that means that maybe I need to push them a little bit more so they ask me who I am or take me to the reception, whatever the uh, is the process within the company. So that's the offensive. What about the defensive? I think that it could help you understanding people in general, which is a great thing for not only working with coworkers or managing your own people, but that could help you in terms of security too. Um, we are seeing a lot of where people are uncomfortable to raise their voice and say, who's this girl? Like, why is she sitting here for hours connected to our network? So sometimes, if you are able to pick up on these facial expressions, maybe it could tell you that something is wrong. Body language. So that's part of the nonverbals, and so it lets us understand the current emotions, but not the root cause. So is for me, I will actually explain you a little bit about how what I'm seeing as body language and where it came from. So where it came from is this like a three brains that we have. The reptilian is the oldest one that was from the time that we were hunting, not dinosaurs, but like mammoths. And it was the survival brain that really taught us the reactions. Is it a danger? Is it like, do I know to eat this fruit or do I know how to avoid it? And the limbic brain is sort of the reaction of the reptilian brain. So the limbs are then doing the action. So the we are talking here about the uh, three: fight, flight, or freeze, right? Well, I'm not talking about the neocortex because that's the like the newest addition from a couple thousands years back, and that's like the thinking brain, but it's also sort of the lying brain. So what I am looking at are the reactions of the reptilian and the limbic brain, because that's how our body is feeling without actually thinking. So the fight, flight, or freeze, right? You're probably familiar with that. So when we are in a state of discomfort, or when we are not in a calm state, we tend to form these or do these pacifying behaviors. As you can see a little bit, it could be anything from nervously tapping, or it could be touching our face. Um, Men would touch usually the side of their necks, so to sort of like a soothe the blood flow. Women touch the prenatal notch here, or if they have some sort of jewelry, they tend to be touching this too. So that's, for me, from the offensive point of view, that's again, for me, it's important to understand is I had the person that I was speaking to, and they were their feet, that are, by the way, the most honest part of our body. um, it was like L, and it was, I need to talk to you, but I don't want to, because the security guards are usually very, very sweet and helpful people. So it for me, it's important to understand what I'm dealing with, and then take next action. Well, which also is the same for the defensive side. So it helps you to understand your people. Are you When you're giving awareness training in your company, you should be. It was great addition. One of my clients, they installed everywhere a see-through tables. So when they had meetings or they are giving awareness sessions, they actually see the whole body, and they incorporate it into their awareness. Then coronavirus happened. Yeah, it caught me, almost caught me in Egypt, actually. So what happened then? We had to move at home, right? So um, if I'm talking about moving at home, what does it mean? Really good thought, and I think it's really good comparison, was Garry Kasparov, the famous chess player. He was saying, because he's now apparently doing lots of cybersecurity talks, he was comparing it as we used to work in the inside the company, where it was like a fortress, where inside we have all these processes and procedures and networks that were really safeguarded, and we had people that were inside the fortress and safe. And what the working from home would be like, pushing the people out of the fortress and leaving them outside, unprotected. So it's all the technology that came into play with staying at home. Um, I am not sure what's the current quarantine status in Egypt. I know that we are in Switzerland going through second wave, so most of us are still working from home. I am thinking that there will be actually lots more working from home after all this happens. Um, we wanted digitalization, right? So we were sort of catapulted in one. So how do we deal about it when we have employees working from home? So if we think about it from offensive point of view, obviously best, but I wouldn't say best because I do not like to scare people. I don't think it's right. But how uh, what criminals are using is the fear and uncertainty and stress. There's been 400% raise in phishing emails, usually to the coronavirus, because everyone is scared. We are not sure how this is going to end. So this is for the offensive side, or the criminals. That's I would say um, uh, they they think it's beneficial. I would not use unless customer asks a coronavirus themed phishing, because same as using perhaps a police or firefighter pretext, I think it then lessens the and lowers the value that you're giving to the client, because next time, what if something really happens, and they will think that it was again a social engineering attack. So I don't think it's a good way to go. I actually think that it's an opportunity from defensive point of view. I think it's really good time to think about that. Are we the weakest link or strongest link? Now the people are outside at home. How do we protect our networks? How do we work with them? We really need to be thinking about the threat landscape of the human assets. And we'll talk about a little bit, but later about what can we do. So from my office to yours. Well, I should have changed it. I should have said from well, my office. It's still office, but it's more like from my home right now. So I'll walk you a little bit through how an engagement like this would work, or how pretty much it's the cyber kill chain, as the buzzword says. I would probably start looking for job. So I would look at open vacancies. So what does it tell me? It tells me what kind of projects you might be doing. It tells me what kind of technology you're using, but it also tells me, okay, is the company looking for a lot of 2 and 3 tier SOC analysts? That tells me that they probably either have none, or that they don't have enough. So that would be first building sort of an understanding of the company. Then, so I didn't want to use an existing company, because I don't want to give out a recipe to attack someone. So I chose my beloved pyramids. So what I would then do, I would remotely look at the location of my target. I would start with Google Maps. Um, wait, and let's say that I've been doing some Google Maps searching and I found that there is a papyrus shop. Let's pretend we are the 2 to 3 thousand years ago, and there is papyrus shop that's being delivered for the pharaohs in the pyramids. And so that's sort of an information I need to understand what is around the place where I'm going, because not only I need to understand how far is the police, how long if I will get into trouble, how long is it going to take them? Because I do have the letter that says that I am allowed to do this, but still it could create an issue. So I need to understand what's in the vicinity and what are the processes, what could happen around the target. Okay, so then I do some some I'm not sure if you're seeing the papyrus. So here is the little papyrus shop that's next to the pyramid. So I'm thinking that that perhaps might be a good target. So here the target are the pyramids. You can see me as the little pirate queen here at the hotel across the street, as where I was actually staying the last time. It was very nice to be looking at the pyramid and the Sphinx in the morning. So, but back to the work. So I will then go in person and a scout assess the location, right? But I'm thinking the Egyptian pharaoh guards are really good, and I don't think that I can tailgate or it's they have good processes in place that I can't pass through. Okay, so what do we do? Remember the papyrus? So I looked into them and I now understand that they are delivering papyrus almost every second day. So our supply chain attacks. So right, I am firm believer that there should be more focused on supply chain attacks because um, as much as we are trying to safeguard our own companies, whoever we are in touch is also being our could be a vulnerability. But that would be the focus for this case. So we chose the papyrus delivery shop. I did some from my hotel and I did some vulnerability scanning. And so in this case, when we are talking about the hybrid, I could use vulnerability scanning, find a vulnerability, get into them remotely, or I can use social engineering. So I will go and ask for a big delivery of papyrus and ask and then plan some keyloggers with some backdoors inside, physically inside the papyrus shop. Hmm. And they are mine at this point. So, so next phase, we are looking at the next delivery. That's next day. So I weaponize a document that's a delivery note to the pyramids with a Trojan, which then causes the pyramids to be infiltrated from inside through the papyrus shop. Well, now, well, in this case, a lot of panic. Um, let's say that there is a pyramid security operations center that saw the attack, saw the Trojan being delivered, cleared everything, and found me in my hotel. So happy end. So now, okay, that's really an ideal scenario. We see a lot when in our engagements, we see a lot of times where it really the response times are not that great. That's why it's really important to follow up and understand this whole engagement. There are positives and negatives. Obviously, perhaps the fact that the pyramids had really good um, processes in place that wouldn't let me infiltrate it is good, but we need to understand why, uh, how did it happen that the papyrus shop was infiltrated, and what can we do about it? So, what can we do? And here I want to look into, in general, what can we do about making the humans in our networks the strongest link, and change the whole cybersecurity point of view of that they are the weakest link, because I really deserve that they believe to be that they deserve to be called the strongest link. So it's not one solution for all, and it's not. I am really against all these buzzwords flying around and the companies buying the latest next generation something, the new shiny toys, because it never works out of the box. You really need time to configure it properly, and also you need to go from the basics. So you need to understand what's in your network in terms of technology and the people. You need to understand how to configure it properly, how to train your people, and then how to, once you build this and you have some maturity level, how to test this. So do audit and do social engineering engagement. And then from that, you will understand what is the threat landscape. So human threat landscape again with the technology threat landscape. But I think that we are not focusing on the human threat landscape a lot. We are thinking of technology as something that's supposed to make us stronger, but it can't be built on if we are not making the humans strong enough in the network. So yes, support human assets properly uh, with with properly configured technology. So, for example, phishing, right? So someone sends us a phishing email, and I heard it. I'm sure everyone heard it as well. There is always that one bad user that clicks on the link in the email. But what's before? Uh, there is so much before that could have stopped this email. What about the perimeter devices? What about the email servers and the email clients, email servers that's supposed to have SPF, DKIM, and DMARC that we are not seeing in for most of clients? What about the tools that are, once it actually reaches our mailbox, perhaps it should say that it's coming from a different domain than ours, if it's perhaps it's trying to masquerade it, but people become more um, more aware if you do this. But there is also obviously data leak prevention. If they are opening it, there should be something that would pop up, and we have antivirus. So there is so much point where uh, the email should have been stopped before it reaches the human. So I think that we need to assume the responsibility of configuring the networks properly before we blame the humans. And I think that's the case for a lot of these attacks. Insider threats. So I think that that will be big thing, especially now with lots of the remote work. I believe that there was a 200% greater number of compromised credentials, uh, and that was from 2018 to 2019. How it will be from 2019 to 2020, and it's one of the biggest threats, but these are threats from inside of our company. So isn't that something that we can do something about? I really like this because it goes, obviously, there are different kinds of insider threats. So if it's someone that joins the company actually to exfiltrate some sort of data with malicious intent, that's different. But and when we are talking about the inadvertent insider threats, these insiders, they are just people that usually don't have enough training. They are perhaps not interested in the company. So that's something that us as a company can do for the people in our network. And it's good thing in general, and it doesn't work only for security. But I've seen uh, um, companies where we worked for some time, how the company culture, how they are so protective of their own company that if I try to go there, they would physically try to stop me. But that requires some social engineering to do because they learn with the time to do it. So it's again, it's a little bit like a complex puzzle of things that you need to do, but that's actually insider threats are the biggest threat, but it almost feels like it's a biggest opportunity for us to change. So working at home, as I was saying, or as Gary Gasper was saying, now we are out of the fortress. We are at home, and that's not only stressful, but we are also all of a sudden we are in a space maybe with other people. We perhaps our work has some privacy required, so maybe we are talking about some sensitive stuff. I know that myself because I have this little robot that's very cute. But I realized having the robot on my desktop is actually not a good thing because, well, it does facial recognition and it greets me, but that means that it has microphone and camera, right? So all of a sudden you need to think about how all your workforce or your employees at home, um, you need to change that part of how they're working. So I was thinking in terms the question that you should be asking. It's not only technological. I think there should be moral support. I think that's it's opportunity to create really good relationships. I know it for myself because it feels good if my manager calls and asks if I am doing okay, if I need something, if when people we got some little gifts. Uh, it's when the company really cares because let's say that you have your workers outside, unprotected, stressed. If someone then approaches them, they perhaps would be more likely to give out some information about their company. So, what about then your workers at home? Some information that some questions that I think that we should be asking is like, what about the family members? Should we make sure what is the situation of our workers at home? Are they are all the time on conference calls, so provide them with headsets. So it's or are they working outside by the pool where there are other people? So they need to have the headset so not anyone else could hear what the conference call is about. Or if it's very sensitive, they obviously should not be anywhere outside, and they should be inside, preferably without any family members. Uh, so when we are talking about, so did when they started working from home, are they working on their personal devices, even shared ones? So when they were moved to home, all of a sudden, is it somewhere where their spouse or kids go to Facebook and some other social media? Is it the same computer that they are using for work? So that kind of we need to provide them the right technology, right? So they should not be using um, shared devices. Um, then are they connecting to your company network through shared Wi-Fi at home? So that's again, that's the technology part. I have this is like a smart router that costs about $20. It's super easy to use. You can just upload any VPN profile to it, and then it actually it's super easy. You plug it into your network and it creates another Wi-Fi network. So then you're giving your employees at home, you're giving them a safe network to connect to, so they don't connect through the same Wi-Fi network as the other members of their family. So, do the measures in place work? And I think I think it was one of the questions actually. Uh, if could security awareness programs be effective enough to raise security awareness to our employees and gain expected outcome, or is it wasting efforts and money? So that sort of this part is answering this question. For me, how do you know that what you created and built and what's in place is it working? That's when social engineering and doing pen tests or audits come into place. Obviously, before that, we need to put something in place. So we need to reach some certain level of maturity. And it's hard because um, I'm sure whoever deals with maybe CISOs or C-level executives heard it already that you want some more money. Again, we are just investing money in your security department, and nothing is happening. We are not seeing the return on investment. But that's how security is, right? If nothing is happening, that actually means that it's good. Um, uh, so in that case, how do we know that it works? So we invested money in smart routers and invested money in providing our managers and people that are managing people. We provided them with insider threats training. We provided our workers with mental health help. But is it really working? Was it money thrown out of the window? I think in this case, uh, social engineering. So I heard it so many times that social engineering is either too aggressive because they feel like that they are attacking their own employees, or that it's just not worth the money that obviously that they uh, I went, it was a normal pen test engagement, and I went there to see the client, and I arrive at the reception. They didn't ask for any ID, and I was led into it was like a sort of kind of governmental place, and I was like led inside through the doors. So I was like, maybe you should do some social engineering. It would be good for you because then you can understand maybe there is no process to check the IDs. There is no process for someone to escort me, and so on. And the client was like, well, it's social engineering. That's all tricks, and obviously it will work. Maybe it will work the first time, but then it means that we can create awareness training that will be focusing on those issues that we are seeing in the workplace. So for me, social engineering is nothing scary or offensive. For me, it's teaching people and supporting them. We don't necessarily need to do red team engagement. It could be a scenario that we build with the customer because it's all about uh, building something and then checking, then creating awareness out of it. So if we are following that sort of process, it's building your people in your network, and it is amazing to see in the companies where we came perhaps multiple times how people all of a sudden that they wouldn't normally be able to speak up to someone, and they would feel little not they wouldn't want to talk to someone and ask what they are doing there, why they are tailgating them. Then all of a sudden they find their voice and they actually stand up to us, and that's really great to see. So I am not I I don't like this like a superstar people breaking into places. I think it's really there. I don't like to scare people. I want to leave them with actually, okay, you went through this, and but you also did this well. Next time, don't worry about just speaking up. We are all people, and nothing's gonna happen. You don't have to be rude. It's not that you turn around and say, "What the hell you're doing here?" It could be just, "Hi, can I help you?" Ask who they are there to see. Take them to that person, or follow the process that could be just take them to the reception. Um, I think that we need to build awareness programs and trainings that work. I am really opposed to those like click through once per year security awareness program to have the tick that you went through the security awareness program. That doesn't work. It's not engaging for people. So what works is bringing lock picking tools and let people pick the locks so they understand that it's actually super easy. So if they are leaving sensitive documents in their little lockers that they have by their um, tables, it's super easy to open. So they need to properly put them into filing cabinets that would have a better locks, for example. Or it makes them understand that how easy it is to get into some places. So it makes them connect their mind to the security mindset. I am going to the Q&A apparently. So I'll look at your questions. Mm, so I answered the first one. Uh, the second one, humans can be the weakest point too. Could be, but I think it really depends on how you're doing things. It is really up to you, and it's the security programs. It's from the higher ups all the way to the cleaners. It's and security. The security people are not the police. We are everyone in the company is a security person, and you have to put the trust in them and make them feel like they are the strongest link instead of being the weakest link. Um, are humans the weakest link in the security chains? No, humans are the strongest link. At least that's what I believe. Um, cyber psychology. Well, yeah, cyber psychology is part of the. I think I answered it. It's more the all the ishings, so the phishing, vishing, smishing. That because that then looks into how people are behaving, and it's obvious. Again, it's very complex, so it's part of it. Perhaps you need to that would uh, translate into creating a process for social media. So where I would go first thing when I'm targeting someone, I go to the company LinkedIn and then I look at the people working for there. Maybe the it should not you should not have it on LinkedIn or have it under different sort of procedures. So this cyber psychology, it is definitely part of creating some processes and procedure in the company. How to use cyber psychology to detect internal threat. Well, but cyber psychology, and when we are talking about internal threats, it's more about the real psychology rather than because cyber psychology that tells you how they are behaving online in the cyberspace. When we are talking about the internal threats, it's much easier to understand, but you have to obviously be supported by your employer. The employer should be providing insider threat training, so you are able to understand, okay, this person it could be inadvertent insider because they haven't been to any trainings. This person is maybe a little weaker in this area, so I need to put someone else and train him. I think that would be really valuable, and I'm hoping to see more of it. Um, does AI have future role in detecting human threat by using facial impressions? It's sort of interesting question because I was just last week I was sitting on a panel that was talking about the future challenges of socks, and it was more like an academia conference. uh, so they were talking a lot about AI, but one thing that we definitely agreed on was that first we need to have the basics, and we are not there yet with the basics. We need to the basic stuff. We need to understand what is in our network so we can be monitoring the network. Then we need to put the processes and procedures in place. Then we need to configure it properly. Then we need to secure the human part of the network. And then obviously we are using not AI, but perhaps machine learning. But I don't think the humans will be completely replaced. And facial impressions, I am I am not sure if that will be uh, because I've been following this a lot, and some companies like IBM have actually completely give up on facial recognition software because due to privacy reasons. So I don't think that we will be seeing like a facial recognition AI, maybe some cameras with like a facial recognition inside a workplace. Do you agree the management of the human of his or hers in cyber life related with cybersecurity? Uh, I'm not sure I understand this question. Uh, do you agree the management of the human of his or her cyber? I'm not sure if I understand correctly the question, but is it that we are supposed to be managing people in terms of cybersecurity in personal life or professional life? I think in professional life we need to obviously put a barrier, but we could be again going back to social media processes and procedure. So do we are we giving out access to our employees to go to social medias at all from our work devices? That depends where you're working. Is it a smaller company? Are we talking about government, or is it nuclear or power plant? Um, but you also need to think about then that sometimes people will try to bypass these security measures in place. It's something that we are explaining a lot in the industrial control systems course, that the whole air gap issue where or issue it's something that should be working, and it's been around quite a lot, where should have air gapped areas, but in most of the cases there is always people find they are very good at finding ways how to bypass that. So yeah, it's you need to understand. That goes back to understand the users, to how they are, how they behave, so you can put proper measures in place, then test it. And then again, it's understanding and bringing in new awareness training programs, and then again testing and seeing. So it's like it's continuous work, but it's very rewarding. I saw some amazing companies, and it was really good to see when they care enough about the humans in their networks. It's worth it. Yeah, I think I'm done with the chat. I'm just checking. Ah, okay. I think I'm done with the chat. Thank you, guys.